Hi, my name is Michael Santos, and I really want to thank you for being a part of this presentation. If you're watching this presentation, I'm going to assume that you have as much interest in mass incarceration as I do. I know that there is a big series of problems that afflict our nation's prison system, and there are also some solutions. I've been working on those solutions from the wrong side of prison fences ever since I served 26 years inside of there, and that's why I learned I really hate where I am. I've got to figure out a way to solve these problems, and I want to build a system that will help other people solve their problems as well. And that's exactly what I have been doing. I started building that system while I was inside of a prison, and when I got out of the prison system, I started to scale it. And now after having invested more than $1 million of my own money, of resources that I have generated from businesses I've built since I've come home, we're now spreading our program, and we're in enough jails and prisons that more than 100,000 people are going through it. But we're really at a great time in our society to make a meaningful impact. And that's why I am working so hard to scale this program. I'm looking for a group of like-minded individuals with the right heart, or businesses that want to have a role in changing this system with me, so that we can influence not only 100,000 people's lives, but millions of people's lives, and really make an impact on improving the outcomes of America's criminal justice system. The great thing about being a part of this community is that although we are going to be asking to raise $2 million through our nonprofit, at the end of about 5 years, we will have turned a corner, and we anticipate being completely self-funding. And I will explain in this presentation how we are going to get there. We need those resources to really expand our capacity by bringing on more staff, hiring a professional executive director and content creator, and really just expanding our team, because I've been doing this by myself since I got out of prison, funding it by myself and producing it myself, by these types of videos that you're seeing right here. But we've made a difference, and with your help, we know we can make a much bigger difference. You will see on the bottom down there that it's Prison Professors is one of the brands that we use to reach people in prison. Our new nonprofit is the Earning Freedom brand, but I will get into those details a little bit as we go. What I'd like to do is ask you to be patient for me as I try and move through this presentation that a member of our team worked so hard to help me create. And I'm going to try and explain it along the way to the best that I can. I want to show people why we are teaching people how to teach themselves. And let me just talk about that for a moment, because when I say that we're working to help people teach themselves, in jails and prisons, the problem are people don't have access to universities. They don't always have access to mentors. So we create content and learning materials that people can learn from anywhere, whether they are inside of a solitary cell or whether they're inside of a population that has access to video and audio files. So that's really the big differentiator of what we do. And let me kind of explain now why it's so important for us to do what we do. We can just kind of focus on this slide as it builds a little bit right now. And I want to talk about it. I mean, we have in the United States only 25% of the global population, but the vast majority of people in prison, and I just want to reverse that because I said it wrong. We have 5% of the global population, but 25% of the global people in prison, they're right here in this country, in the land of the free. And it's been really a trajectory of growth since the 1970s, when we really moved to this movement toward mass incarceration. It costs taxpayers more than $100 billion a year. And you can see the outcomes with 60% recidivism rates, primarily afflicting people of color, and with the growing population being white collar offenders and women. But I can tell you that I learned how to overcome this process of preparing for success by when I was incarcerated, and I was first exposed to this teaching by Socrates when an officer passed me a copy of the book that Plato wrote about Socrates' experience. I also learned from Gandhi, who taught us that we need to be the change that we want to see in the world. And it's those kinds of leaders that inspired me. The only reason I really paid attention to them was because I read books in the start of my process of self-development. I could identify with them because I read that they were in jail or in prison. And that made a big difference in my life. It made me want to listen and learn from them. And I suspect that there are many people in jail and prison that really only listen and learn from me because they know that I did 9,500 days in prison. And while I was in prison every day, I continuously focused on how I wanted to emerge. And I can show the authenticity of how my life really transitioned once I came home from society. That it was the decisions that I made while I was in prison, as I just started serving that sentence, that led to me earning university degrees and then emerging from prison and being able to build this career speaking in front of large audiences like that one at Berkeley. Or I'll be able to profile people like my friend Sean Hopwood, who was a bank robber and then became a lawyer. And I'll be able to show them how the decisions in prison can lead to support from some leading organizations like PBS that helped to profile my work and showing the mission that I was on when I first came home from prison back in 2013. Because what I really learned is that there are some key components to building a pathway to success while growing in prison. And I want to focus on that slide for just a moment and talk about what are those three components that people need to learn. I learned that if an individual focuses on developing strong communication skills, both verbal skills and writing skills, that person is going to be in a far better position to advance into the job market and start creating an income. A person need also develop strong critical thinking skills so that they can understand the opportunity costs that come with every decision. And of course, an individual needs to develop that really insane self-directed work ethic that really empowered me through the 9,500 days journey. And if people do that, they can kind of emerge as that statue there of the self-made man, just carving their way out from a pathway of difficulty and struggle and emerge stronger with their dignity intact. That's what prison professors or all of our products and coursework are about, is teaching people how to teach themselves regardless of the past, regardless of where they are right now. And we've been somewhat successful in creating this type of work. I think it's one way that we can, as Gandhi advised, be the change that we want to see in the world. And we'd love to do this better and reach more people because of just the vast scale of the problem, with 2.3 million people incarcerated and far more people being afflicted by this system of mass incarceration. We could look at that slide for a moment that just shows 19 million people in America have been convicted of a felony. Not all of them went to jail or prison, but they all live with that stigma. And our job is to try and help not only not so much address the unfortunate situation of mass incarceration, but what can we do to improve the outcomes for those people? We know that 77 million people have some kind of a criminal record. They're existing in some type of law enforcement database, and there are complications that come with that. We know that 113 million people, which is more than one out of every two adults, has had a family member who's been to jail or prison. We know that in order to stop this vicious cycle, we've got to understand the composition of our nation's jail and prison system that shows that 3 years before going to prison, most of the 49% of them were unemployed. We know that those who were employed earned less than $15,000 a year in annual income, which shows there's just been a really high level of poverty, primarily afflicting people of color. And we can see this pattern of what happens where somebody commits a crime, they go to prison, they get out of prison, they have low employment rates, low income, and all too often that leads to another crime and another problem in prison. And when they get out, even those who do have a job after 3 years, 53% of them are working after 3 years of release, only 53%. That means that 47% haven't even found an ability to earn a decent job. We know that 41% of the people that are working, or rather the people that are working, they're earning 41% less than the non-incarcerated population. And there's just enormous collateral damage that afflicts our society, and it affects a lot of people that didn't commit a crime, like the innocent children. And it just spawns this intergenerational cycle of poverty that I think we see spreading across America. And our group really wants to make a change by changing that vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle, where if somebody commits a crime, they may go to prison, but then they get exposed to our Earning Freedom Prison Professors coursework, and that helps them develop skills. And with those skills, then they generate support, they generate income opportunities, and they emerge as law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. That's the virtuous cycle we want to create. And we want to create it because of the people that are impacted by this. Some people may wonder, well, who's getting impacted by this system? You can just look at the headlines and you can come to your own conclusions, but it would seem that all of us are impacted by this system of mass incarceration, and at what cost. So we can look at the state of California, which provides us with numbers showing that how much they are spending, $118,000 a year per person. It's more than $300 a day per person, $15 billion to incarcerate 127,000 people. And when we look at the cost that the state spends on an individual student who's going to community college, it's 39 times more we're spending to keep people in prison. That we're spending on that per person. Same thing with if we look at the K through 12 education, we're spending 7 times more per person to keep people in prison than we are on helping people get through education systems. And the result, the outcome, is something that I think should bring a pause to every American citizen. When we see 60% recidivism rates, I think we can all draw that same conclusion that our whole entity is built around. That's the longer we expose people to corrections, the less likely those people are to emerge or to function as law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. And why is that? It's because prisons kill hope. The whole prison concept, it kills hope, not only for the individual, but also for the people serving time. And we can see how it afflicts people by just looking at some of the people that have gone through the Prison Professors program, and they can tell us, you don't have to take my word for it, you can listen to their words of what they've experienced in going through the prison system. And you'll see there that on that image, you can see Halim Flowers, whom I feature on the homepage of our website at Prison Professors, and you should really listen to his story. It's got the most amazing story of this guy that was serving a double life sentence because he fit that profile of coming into the system, of being really living in a traumatic environment since birth, and as a young boy committed crimes and was sentenced to life in prison. But he completely transformed his life while he was in prison. And he attributes in this video that he talks about that prison professors played a role in changing his life, and he emerged from prison and went on to become successful, not only as an author, but also as an advocate and an artist who, despite serving 22 years in prison from the time he was 16 until he was in his late 30s, he developed skills that has resulted in him becoming an artist and selling more than $1 million worth of artwork since he has come home. And, I'd love for you to hear his own story when he was still in prison. Tell us about that, how you and I came into contact, Halim.
Similar to your story, when you was in prison, being punished for doing the right thing. And DC legislators in 2016, I was able to get them to, through my life story, to change the resentencing laws and respect the juveniles getting life sentences in the District of Columbia. So as soon as the law was enacted, as a punishment to me, the Federal Bureau of Prisons sent me from West Virginia, which is closer to DC, and I was in a FCI institution, and they sent me to a USP in Atwater, California. So like soon as the law passed and I was going to need to have access to my attorneys and my mitigation specialists as a punishment, they sent me back to a high security prison in California, just as you were sent to Colorado. And that's when it was a blessing because, I know everything happens for a reason. And when I got there, the warden. I forgot the warden's name at this
Andre
time.
Matavusian.
Yeah, he was pushing your program at that time, and one of the guys that had attended your university, he had a copy of some of your books, and I was able to read your books, and that's how your email was in the book, and I emailed you.
And the same goes for that young fellow on the right of that slide. That's George Smith. In fact, if I can manipulate my computer skills here a little bit, and I'll ask you to bear with me while I try this, I'm going to block this out and show you this interview with George, and you can just listen to his own words as he talks about the influence we had on his life. Association's conference in Long Beach, and I got the most unexpected testimonial from a man right here, and he's a brother of mine right now, and I'm super enthusiastic to have him share with you what I learned.
Definitely. Just beginning with the first, again, man, how much I had to share with you, how much I love you, brother, for the work that you've done. Coming home and setting a template, a gauge for us all to kind of follow, right? A map. Anyway, so long story short, I seen what you had done. It was called, the one that I seen, the first episode was a SMART episode.
The straight A guide. Yeah.
Right? And how to set specific and measurable goals for myself.
Yeah.
Right? And I have to just
And what were you serving at that time?
My sentence?
Yeah.
Double life plus 31 years.
Double life plus 31 years, and you got inspired by that program to start setting specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-bound goals.
Absolutely. But you took it to another level for me. I shared with you about you told me about avatars and collecting people to advocate for my freedom and things of that nature. And I literally took that and I wrote it on paper. I want 10 people to advocate for my release one day.
Yeah.
Right?
And that happened.
It literally happened.
Yeah.
So when I set those goals, I was going to share with you my very first book, The Moving of Him. Right? I wrote it in 2 weeks based on what you told me to do. Write something, write a goal out. What are you going to do? With the hope of having a peaceful transition, like I shared with you, the sensitive need, the protective custody with the general population. It was mandated by Ralph Diaz, the secretary at that time, throughout the state of California. Mm-hmm. I went ahead with it. It was one of the most dangerous experiences I've ever faced in my life. And it was one of the most successful transitions inside the state of California. And as a result, my avatars increased. The district attorney advocated for my freedom. Mr. Ralph Diaz advocated for my freedom. The warden of the prison, all these people. So I just want to tell you thank you.
Thank you. Now, I did go on and complete additional interviews with George and with many other people, including the teachers in prisons and jails that are actually teaching the course. And this is Kimberly Martin, an extraordinary teacher with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And I'd like you to hear what she has to say about using the curriculum that we're developing. I'm so enthusiastic to be here at the conference where are we, in Long Beach?
Long Beach.
And I'm with Kimberly Martin. Kimberly, where do you work?
I work at CCI in Tehachapi.
And tell us a little bit about the work that you do and how you became familiar with the Prison Professors program.
I am working with our students in the e-learning program, and they love you, they love your books, and because of you, I have a waiting list as long as my arm.
Well, we're so enthusiastic because we're going to provide you a lot more content that will teach and inspire all of the people in prison because we want them to emerge successful. Isn't that right, Kimberly?
Yes, yay!
And we just offered a new opportunity for the people in prison. If you have questions, you can pass them along to Kimberly, and then you can And if you think it's only just one person, I mean, I can tell you, you can scroll through our page and just see the number of people that have spoken about the impact that they have found, whether they are serving time in prison or they are teachers that are using the program. All of these have videos of the people talking about the way that it works. And I'm looking for some of them, including this young man right here, with whom I work in California Department of Corrections in distributing these programs, and you can hear what he has to say. I've had such an amazing time here at the Correctional Education Association, meeting so many people, but one of the most inspiring guys I met is my mentor right here, Patrick. How are you, Patrick?
I'm awesome, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great. Patrick, tell them your role at the California Department of Corrections.
I'm an administrator and I oversee an e-learning program designed to give an opportunity for our students to enrich their learning.
Well, I can assure you, none of the programs that I create would have been nearly as good had it not been for the tutelage I received from this young man right here, who made the what is it? We're preparing for success after prison.
Yes.
And we have a new one starting right now. What's the next one called?
Self-Help with Journaling 101, The Prison Professor.
And I can assure you that those types of programs are the ones that make an enormous difference. I would never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do. I am just so grateful to find mentors like this. I hope that you find mentors in your life, and that all starts with the way that you adjust, the way that you behave in prison. So please stick with the programs and work toward being the best that you can possibly be.
And read anything you can get your hands on written by Michael Santos.
You see, I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to have an impact on people and to help teachers who want to reach more people, who want to help more people transition into life successfully from prison, like Stacy Kozlowski. I'm so enthusiastic here at Prison Professors to be with one of the extraordinary leaders at the California Department of Corrections. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Stacy Zielinski, and I teach at the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo.
And I met Stacy here at the Correctional Education Association. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
So the Correctional Education Association conference in Long Beach, and she introduced herself and told me, well, you tell her what you told her.
Well, I met Michael, and he wouldn't remember me, but it was about 5 years ago at another conference, and he was very enthusiastic and very inspirational in my journey as becoming a teacher in the educational setting in a prison. So I really appreciate your time, Michael, and the opportunity to meet you. And here we are again.
Yeah, we're here again, but you've been using, now after 5 years, you've been using the Prison Professors courses, the Earning Freedom courses, the Mastermind courses, and you can give us an idea of how the people inside are responding.
So the guys inside are responding really well. Prison After Success has been a really positive one, good communication. And my program for college also ties in with our e-learning program, which is more of a self-help, but I'm there to proctor, answer questions, and just help facilitate just how change can happen.
And what I'm enthusiastic about introducing to Stacy now is if any of her students have questions, they can send her the questions and she can email them to me. I will produce videos like this one and respond. The only thing I can promise, I'll never ask anybody to do anything I didn't do while I was going through 26 years in prison, and it helped me build my career when I came home. Will those videos be helpful to your team?
I think those videos would be amazing, and I appreciate those would take the time to ask questions.
So I hope that you're following along here and seeing the impact that we have with our work. You can hear it from staff members. You can hear it from the people that teach the courses. You can hear it from so many people. If you just visit our website at prisonprofessors.com, you'll get much more, including endorsements, the endorsements we receive. And on this side, I'll just leave it up there for a moment so that you can see who they are. They're actually endorsements from former staff members that worked in the Justice Department in some capacity, like Alicia Lim-Tiaco, who was the U.S. Attorney and brought me to Guam and Saipan so that we could bring our programs to the islands in Micronesia. You can see a quote I found online from an honorable judge in Bakersfield. But the one that really makes me proud is from Michael Tausig, who is now a member of our board on the Prison Professors Charitable Corporation on the Earning Freedom nonprofit. And Michael, I have some history with because he was a deputy warden in the state of Maine's prison system. And he reached out to me 5 or 6 years ago when I was just really establishing myself after my release from prison and told me he had read about the Prison Professors program and asked me to bring it inside the state of Maine's prison system. Not only did Mike purchase the program, but he also taught the program. And on our website, he kind of talks about that journey. But more importantly, after he left the state of Maine, his career took an advancement and he became a deputy commissioner for the New York City Department of Corrections. And he purchased the program again. He saw how effective it was in Maine. He wanted to bring it into New York. And when he did that, it really just gave me hope that we could have a bigger impact spreading across the nation. Well, Mike has since retired and he reached out to me again, and now he has become one of the founding board members of our nonprofit. So he'll be working to help us develop and reach more correctional leaders. This is the way that we are going to grow a virtuous cycle. We don't try to change the system. That's just too big of a problem. It's like trying to boil all the water in the ocean. And there are a lot of effective nonprofits out there that are doing good work. But what we try to do is we really try to change lives. We really try to show people how to learn to think differently, how to develop those communication skills and critical thinking skills, and really appreciate that education is the key to transforming their lives, because they all may start inside of a prison cell, but if they don't develop those really strong communication skills and writing competencies and learn how to journal and tell their story and develop strong critical thinking skills, they stay stuck in that cycle that fuels those intergenerational cycles of poverty. So we really have to help those people, but we also have to change public perception so that we can create better policies and help taxpayers understand the collateral consequences of mass incarceration that really make life difficult for all Americans, because by deploying so many resources to fund America's prison system, we have fewer resources to fund healthcare and infrastructure and education and other programs. And there's just not enough success coming out of our prison systems. So we're always working on how we can deliver more and get bigger, make a bigger impact. So, we create content every single day, but I'm really just a one-man guy who came out of prison. I've got help from my wife, whom I married inside of a federal prison, and other people on our team that really help us to develop this content and publish it on multiple formats. So we currently have more than 1,000 videos and audio files, books, workbooks, just a tremendous amount of content that we create to teach people how to learn regardless of where they are, just because we know that system and we know the importance of being self-directed. But we also have to both teach and inspire and show them that we're giving them a better way. And the reason we have to do that is because the people that are serving time, they didn't grow up in an environment with great role models or a great emphasis on education. They had to learn this. We have to help them learn this while they're living inside of that really difficult environment. But you can see the results that we have had, where more than 4,000 people have already, in the state of California, have already not only gone through the program, but they completed it and earned time off their sentence as a direct result of the program. And we've got information showing that, that those people got a time reduction, saving 61,000 days of incarceration. And at a cost of $323 a day in California, that equates to a $19 million savings. Okay, that's a massive amount of savings for the amount of money, the relatively small amount of money that California spent to buy these licensing agreements, which to date is somewhere in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. But if you take that, it's more than 150 times return on investment that California has gotten by using the Prison Professors Program. And we're really helping people not only complete our program, but then move on into other programs, including going into GED classes and college classes and vocational classes. So we're really spreading this around the country, where we've currently been in more than 100 institutions since I've gotten out of prison. But you can kind of see how those dots are populating, how we spread. But we're really showing how your investment with us and joining us to raise this $2 million will help us scale to the 3,000 counties around America, where there are likely more than 30,000 facilities that could use our programs. And we could have an impact on 2 million people that are serving time and really improve safety across America. So, by delivering these results, we really strive to help people become job ready. We strive to break the cycles of recidivism that often lead to homelessness and poverty, and build safer communities. That's really what we're all about, is teaching people how to learn and become productive so that they can function in society as law-abiding, tax-paying Americans with a great job, just like other people who've gone through our program have experienced. But we need to scale this. The cool thing about this opportunity is that if we raise the $2 million, we anticipate being completely self-funded and self-sustaining within only 5 years. And the way that we do that is both by producing more content that institutions will buy, and also increasing the number of institutions that purchase our licensing agreements at anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a year. So that's let me kind of go back to that slide because I think it went a little too quickly on it. I just want you to be able to see what we're doing and how your investment can really lead to a bigger impact across America. But that's kind of how our model works currently, where the institutions pay us a licensing agreement, and those licensing agreements right now are growing, and they're going to continue to grow. And we do know that we need to scale faster. We need to scale so that we can reach 1 million people each year in jails and prisons or more. We need to increase our library of content, both content that we produce in-house, but also we need to curate best-in-class content and reformat it under our umbrella so that we're really building this credibility. So anybody that has content that can help people in prison, we want to really become the beacon on the hill, so to speak, so that they can come to us and we can help them solve that problem and demonstrate outcomes. That's really what our BHAG is. And you may be familiar with BHAG from the Stanford professor Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great. And I learned a lot from just studying business leaders who spoke about the importance of having big, hairy, audacious goals when you're running a business. Well, this is a nonprofit, but really that's our big, hairy, audacious goal. Our BHAG is to try and reach millions of people and have an impact on helping those people emerge successfully as law-abiding, contributing citizens. And we want you to be a part of helping us reach these different audiences, including administrators that work in prisons, people serving time in prisons, but also taxpayers, which is why we're investing in social media and investing in creating so much digital content. But let me kind of tell you how we got here and how we have evolved over the years. You see, this is a program, as I wrote, that really began, I can say in the year 2000, but I started serving my sentence in 1987 as a result of some bad decisions I made during the recklessness of youth when I was 20 years old. But by the time I was finished earning my undergraduate degree and my master's degree in prison, I began publishing books. And by the year 2000, I'd kind of come to that fulcrum where I'm halfway through my sentence. And in the second half of my sentence, I began creating a lot of the books and the workbooks and the content that has become Earning Freedom and the Prison Professors Program. And then in 2010, as I was really getting closer to my release date, together with my wife, we began distribution just by sending this content out. And I was funding this completely from the work that I was doing in prison, where we were publishing our books and sending them out to jails and prisons. And then by the time I got out in 2013, we started to introduce this to jails and prisons, and they started to purchase our content in 2014. Now, I want to recognize that our revenues have been rather paltry in all this time, where we've only generated about $250,000 in revenues from our work, but I've also supplemented that with my own money from resources I've earned from the various business opportunities that I've created since I've come home. And I've invested more than $1 million, including all of my time, in building this content. But we also have hired a team of formerly incarcerated people. That's one of our missions, is to provide jobs for formerly incarcerated people. So I'm always donating my time and my resources to create and promote better outcomes and to really grow this organization. But it's time for us to really seize the moment and make a bigger impact across America. And that's why I am striving to grow this by raising resources. I'm 100% committed to doing this on my own, regardless if I raise any money. I've already contributed a lot of money, but I, according to the nonprofit lawyers, because it's intellectual property and I funded it, I have to license it. So I'm licensing it for $1 a year to the distribution. But all future licensing will go directly and be signed directly by the nonprofit. I'm 100% commitment to making a bigger impact, and I work 7 days a week on that process. And I will continue to donate my time until the board of directors decides we have enough resources to pay. But I'm all about doing this with or without sponsorship. Currently, our organization is myself, and we are going to hire an executive director once we raise money, but I just can't go and hire somebody unless I have that money in the bank, or the nonprofit has the money in the bank. We're looking forward to Michael Tausik, who's our current board member, really leading the development of our sales force and overseeing that and connecting with the other institutions. We also have Emily Testwide, who is a data scientist, and we'd love to bring her on to collect data so that we can communicate with administrators about the impact that we're having. We also want to hire educators and content creators and a curation team, as well as other video people, so I don't have to do all of this work by myself. And my wife will always be working with me as well. So this project is really moving along, but the time is right for us to reach out and find businesses and individuals that really want to help us close the gaps that we're having. As we're moving forward here, we've kind of built this projection. I've done this together with my mentor and the other board member, Bill McGlashan, who some of you may know as a former director of the Rise Fund and the founder of the Rise Fund, who is just an incredibly giving individual who has really helped me develop this presentation. I'm really grateful to Bill McGlashan for helping me in so many ways learn more about how to go out and raise capital so that we can have a bigger impact on the world. And with his help, we've not only built this deck and formed the nonprofit, he's on the board of the nonprofit, but we've kind of really, by doing our calculations, recognized that in 2023, our expenses, if we hire all of these people and build all of this content, is going to be about $850,000 a year. But our revenues currently at about $100,000 a year, we anticipate doubling to $200,000 a year. So we're still going to endure a loss of $650,000, and that will continue, as this table shows. In 24, we anticipate having expenses of about $925,000, but we will have revenues of about $400,000, leading to a loss of a little over $500,000. And then in 2025, we envision $1.08 million in expenses. That's what our projections show. Our revenue should continue to grow to about $600,000, resulting in a loss of $408,000. Then in 2026, we anticipate our expenses will rise to about $1.4 million, but of course our revenues will increase as well to about $1.2 million, leading to a loss of about $200,000. So if you add those losses up, you kind of get the basis on why we're asking for a $2 million funding round. And that $2 million will allow us to develop this scalable model so that we can really start making an impact on the world, a bigger impact on the world, and hopefully ending this pathway from jails and prisons to poverty and homelessness and reincarceration rates, and instead working to build more fulfilling lives as law-abiding, tax-paying, fully employable citizens, just as I have experienced. So we'd love for you to consider becoming a partner with us, whether you are an individual or you are a business, to sponsor our work. We're looking to raise, as I said, about $2 million so that we can continue employing formerly incarcerated people, but also super talented non-incarcerated people who will help us make this, create this process so that we can scale and influence several million people and build a solution to one of the great social injustices of our time, which is mass incarceration. So I appreciate you for being patient with me through this presentation. My name is Michael Santos. If you want more information, you could reach me at the email on the slide there, or through prisonprofessors.com or .org. We're still in development, but we do have a lot of content out there that you can see, and we'd love to start a conversation with you. Thank you.